They say you never really know who your friends are until they ruin you. That line kept replaying in my head for weeks, like an echo I couldn't silence. My name is Emily Hart, and I used to believe in loyalty, laughter, and late-night promises. I was a senior at a small college in Colorado, majoring in psychology and dreaming of becoming a therapist. I had 3 best friends, Tara, Nick, and Brian, people I thought would be in my wedding someday. They weren't just friends. They were family. At least I thought they were. It all started the week before finals. We were studying in the library when Tara looked at me with that mischievous grin she always had and said, "Hey we should all blow off some steam after exams. Cabin trip, just us. No stress, no books, just memories." I smiled, completely clueless to what was coming. That trip did change everything. Just not in the way any of us expected. 3 days later, I woke up to 98 missed calls, 47 messages, and a text from my professor that said only one word: sorry. My stomach twisted as I opened Instagram. There was a video. Me. Crying. Begging. Edited to look like I'd done something shameful and disgusting. Fake captions, spliced audio, twisted lies. And it was posted from Tara's account, tagged with my name, my college, my internship. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. My email exploded with hate. My internship was postponed pending review. And the girl who once had a full campus behind her suddenly had no one. No one. Except my grandfather, Frank Hart. Frank is 68. Retired Marine sniper, quiet, soft-spoken, the kind of man who speaks only when necessary. He raised me after my parents died in a car crash when I was 8. He taught me how to fight fair, think clear, and walk away from trouble, unless someone you love gets hurt. When he saw the video, he didn't say a word. He just turned off the TV, sat down in his old armchair and said, "Tell me everything." Slowly. Told him. Every detail. The prank, the friends, the betrayal. How I couldn't even step outside without whispers following me. When I finished, he nodded once. Calm, almost too calm, and said, "You don't get even by shouting, Em. You get even by showing the truth. Let me handle this." That was the moment I realized. Grandpa wasn't just angry. He was planning something. The next few weeks, Grandpa acted like nothing happened. He went fishing in the mornings, fixed his truck, and even baked pies for the neighbors. But every evening when the house got quiet, I'd hear the faint tapping of his laptop. Emails, calls, something about metadata, VPN traces, digital footprints, things I barely understood. One night I walked into the kitchen and saw a wall covered in printouts, screenshots, phone logs, message threads. He had mapped every movement of Tara, Nick, and Brian for the past month. I whispered, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" He looked up, his eyes calm and sharp. Just confirming what I already suspected. This wasn't a prank. It was planned. He showed me proof that Tara's boyfriend, Nick, and Brian were running a secret YouTube gossip channel where they'd been posting college scandals for ad money. My humiliation was their season finale. My hands shook as I read their messages, laughing about views, sponsorships, even bets on how many people would believe the fake video. I couldn't breathe. But Grandpa. He just folded the papers neatly and said, "Good. Now we know what kind of enemies we're dealing with." Instead of going to the police immediately, Grandpa did something I didn't expect. He started visiting the local coffee shop every morning, the same one where Tara worked part-time. He never spoke to her. He just tipped her politely, left a generous $20, and walked away. 3 days later, I noticed people at school whispering again, but this time not about me. About Tara. Rumors began spreading that her YouTube channel had stolen content, that she was faking sponsorships, that someone had sent her employer proof of online harassment. It wasn't Grandpa who said it. He never lies. But somehow, every truth he uncovered found its way to the right people. Anonymously. You see, Grandpa spent 22 years in the Marines as a recon sniper. He always said revenge isn't about violence. It's about patience and precision. He started applying that mindset to karma. While I tried to rebuild my life, Grandpa quietly orchestrated justice. He tracked Brian's fake scholarship applications, the ones he submitted using false military service. Within a week, Brian's acceptance letter was revoked, and he was under academic investigation. Nick. He worked as an intern at a media firm. Grandpa found out that Nick's side hustle, his gossip channel, violated his company's ethics policy. A short anonymous tip to HR later. Nick's internship vanished overnight. Tara's fall came last. She was confident, smirking in class, pretending nothing could touch her. But Grandpa had one last move. He showed me an email he'd drafted. Subject line. For your records, regarding the false harassment case involving Emily Hart. He sent it to Tara's college, her workplace, and her sponsors, attaching the full unedited footage that proved I had been framed, and every digital trace he'd tracked to her and Nick's shared IP address. Within 48 hours, the truth exploded. Tara was expelled. Nick and Brian were banned from campus housing. Their channel was terminated for harassment and defamation. And for the first time in months, I walked across campus and no one whispered. They just stared, in awe, in shame, in silence. One evening, I found Grandpa sitting on the porch, sipping tea, watching the sunset. I sat next to him and whispered, "You didn't have to do all that." He smiled faintly. "Sure I did. You don't let good people stay broken. You fix the balance." I asked him how he managed all that, the tracking, the leaks, the precision. He chuckled. "Let's just say, I spent a lifetime learning how to find people who think they're invisible." Then he handed me a small card. It had a single quote on it. "Karma doesn't miss. It just takes aim. Sometimes the quietest people in the room are the ones pulling every string." I thought it was over. After Grandpa's quiet storm of karma hit, Tara, Nick, and Brian faded into the background of campus life, their reputations scorched beyond repair. Classes felt lighter again. Professors stopped avoiding my name. I could walk past the bulletin board without seeing screenshots of that awful video. But deep down I couldn't shake this feeling, the kind of chill you get before a thunderstorm. Because if I knew anything about my grandpa, it was this. He never stops halfway. It was a Wednesday evening when I noticed it again, the sound of faint typing from Grandpa's study. He wasn't looking into my classmates anymore. He was digging into something else. I stood by the door and whispered, "Grandpa, are you still working on it?" He didn't look up. "Just cleaning up loose ends." His screen was filled with documents, IP traces, email headers, stuff I couldn't understand. But I noticed one thing, a different name on every file. Not Tara. Not Nick. Not Brian. A new one. Professor Alan Whitmore, head of our college's communications department. "Why are you looking at my professor?" I asked. "Because," he said quietly, "that viral video was uploaded through a VPN registered under his name." My stomach dropped. "What? That can't be. He's respected, he's connected," Grandpa interrupted. "And very careful. Which makes me wonder why 3 broke college kids suddenly had professional-level editing tools and access to private campus footage." That was the moment I realized. This wasn't a student prank. This was something bigger. And Grandpa was about to dismantle it piece by piece. Grandpa's background in intelligence meant he noticed patterns others missed. He'd been tracking the metadata behind the original upload and discovered that the source video, the raw footage that Tara and her friends edited, came from campus surveillance. That meant someone with clearance gave them access. "So you're saying a professor helped them humiliate me?" I asked, shaking. Helped, he said. More like used them. Grandpa explained it in that calm, logical tone of his, the same voice that used to lull me to sleep when I was a kid. Whitmore had been running a quiet side business, selling sensational college scandal clips to underground gossip channels. It was meant to expose corruption and misconduct for profit. He just never expected one of those stories to backfire. Tara, Nick, and Brian were just pawns. They were desperate for views, for fame, for someone to notice them. Whitmore gave them away, and I was the casualty. Grandpa decided to bait Whitmore out. He told me not to post anything online. Not even a selfie. Instead, he made me set up a new anonymous Reddit account under the name Campus Truth Seeker. We started posting vague leaks about the scandal, hinting that we had proof of faculty involvement. Within 24 hours, a new account messaged me privately. "Stop spreading lies about Professor Whitmore. You'll regret this." The account was new, but Grandpa traced it in minutes. It belonged to one of Whitmore's research assistants, a grad student named Paige. And just like that, we had confirmation he was scared. Watching Grandpa work was like watching a chess master at play. He didn't threaten anyone. He just moved quietly, surgically. He'd call it information warfare. Called it genius. He gathered evidence. Tax fraud, misused campus funds, even private messages where Whitmore bribed students for dirt. But what impressed me most was how he turned karma into an art form. Instead of exposing Whitmore himself, he fed every clue to a student-run news blog. One post at a time, the truth surfaced. Anonymous leaks, screenshots, transaction receipts. The internet did the rest. A week later, I was sitting in the cafeteria when Tara approached me. Eyes swollen, hands trembling. "Emily, I need to talk to you." Froze. The whole cafeteria seemed to stop breathing. "I didn't know, okay," she said, tears spilling. "Whitmore promised us he'd delete the video after a few days. Said it was just for his private research project. Then he sold it." I stared at her, unable to process whether she was lying or just scared. Before I could answer, she whispered, "Please tell your grandpa to stop. He's ruining all of us." That's when I realized she knew. She knew Grandpa was behind it, and she wasn't wrong. But Grandpa wasn't ruining them. He was revealing them. That night, I overheard Grandpa on the phone. "Mr. Whitmore, let's call this a courtesy call," he said calmly. "You've caused enough damage. I suggest you start cleaning your name before someone else does it for you." There was silence. Then a sneering voice through the speaker. "You have no proof, old man." "Proof?" Grandpa replied, almost amused. "I have timestamps, data logs, financial records, and your assistant's confession. But don't worry, I haven't shared them yet. You still have 48 hours. When he hung up, he looked at me and smiled faintly. "Always give your enemy a chance to do the right thing. It makes what comes next poetic." 2 days later, Whitmore went on leave. Campus News said it was medical reasons. But Grandpa just called it karma's warm-up. Whitmore's leave didn't stop the truth. A leaked report that mysteriously appeared in the student newspaper inbox revealed his connection to a media firm that bought viral content, the same one Nick interned for. The scandal exploded beyond campus. National outlets started sniffing around. Suddenly, people weren't talking about me being that girl from the video. They were talking about a professor who exploited students for money and views. I remember walking into class and hearing someone whisper, "She's the one who brought him down." And for the first time in months, that whisper didn't hurt. It healed. That night, Grandpa made me tea and said, "Justice doesn't always mean punishment, Tim. Sometimes it means the world finally sees the truth." I smiled through tears. "You didn't just clear my name, Grandpa. You changed everything." He nodded. "No, you did. You faced it. I just steadied the aim. Then, after a pause, he added something that stayed with me forever. The worst kind of enemy isn't the one who attacks you. It's the one who convinces others to help them. That's why karma takes time. It's building an audience for their downfall. I thought that was the end of it. Whitmore exposed. My name cleared. But one morning, Grandpa handed me an envelope. Unmarked, no return address. Inside was a single photo. A picture of him sitting on our porch drinking tea. The photo had been taken from across the street. On the back, someone had written, "You think this is over. It's not." Grandpa's expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. He looked up at me and said, "Looks like we're not done yet." Then he stood up, walked to his study, and shut the door. And that's when I knew the sniper was back in position. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the faces of my so-called friends, Jake, Tyler, and Ben, laughing, whispering, pointing. And behind them, the digital ghost of that cruel video that had torn my reputation apart. But between those shadows, I also saw my grandfather, sitting in the living room, polishing that old pocket watch of his. The same one he'd carried through wars, through death, through decades of secrets. His voice echoed in my head. "If they chose the path of cruelty, Emily, we'll make sure they walk every painful inch of it." And I believed him. The next morning, Grandpa Frank treated me like it was any other Saturday. Pancakes, orange juice, his usual humming of old Johnny Cash tunes. But as I watched him, I noticed something different. He wasn't humming absent-mindedly. It was rhythm. Like a soldier pacing his breath before a strike. Then, after breakfast, he laid out 3 index cards on the table. Each had a name written neatly in ink. Jake. The ringleader Tyler. The opportunist Ben, the coward. He looked at me, eyes sharp but calm. "Emily, we don't hit back in anger. Anger is messy. We deal in precision. You understand?" I nodded, my hands trembling slightly. "We don't break laws, Emily. We break lies." That's when I realized. Grandpa's idea of revenge wasn't violence. It was something far more dangerous. Exposure. For the next week, our house turned into a small war room. Grandpa called it Operation Golden Justice. Called it therapy. He set up a large corkboard, lines of red string connecting faces, screenshots, and sticky notes. Each one represented a truth waiting to explode. Jake, the self-proclaimed alpha, whose father owned half the local construction business. Tyler, the aspiring influencer with a fake perfect life online. Ben, the quiet one, always tagging along but never standing up for anyone. I watched in awe as Grandpa worked. He didn't use guns or gadgets. He used information. He dug through old yearbooks, public records, even real estate listings. He contacted people in town who owed him favors. And for the first time I realized how deeply connected my grandfather was. Not in the flashy way, but the kind of respect that comes from earned fear. "You can tell a lot about a man by what he deletes," Grandpa said one night, scrolling through cached pages on Tyler's old blog. "Lucky for us, the internet never forgets." The first to fall would be Jake. Everyone saw him as the golden boy. Charming, confident, destined for his father's empire. But Grandpa's quiet investigation revealed a different story. Jake had been embezzling small sums from the company's accounts, using his father's credit lines for personal trips and cryptocurrency investments. Grandpa found it all. Receipts, timestamps, even GPS data. "We'll give him a choice," Grandpa said, eyes glinting. "Truth or downfall." He drafted an anonymous email with all the evidence and sent it to Jake's father's accounting department. Then he scheduled it to send automatically 3 days later. Unless Jake made things right. Meanwhile, Grandpa mailed Jake an unsigned letter. You ruined a girl's life for entertainment. If you believe in second chances, confess to what you've done. The truth has a timer. That letter hit Jake like a bullet. 2 days later, he was pale-faced at the gym, arguing on his phone. By the third day, he'd deleted his social media, withdrawn from college, and gone off the grid. When the auto email hit, Jake's father fired him publicly, and the company issued a press statement about misconduct within the management trainee program. Grandpa didn't smile. He just said quietly, "1 down. 2 to go." Tyler was easy to find but hard to hit. He lived on validation. Grandpa knew that. "The boy's addicted to attention," he said. "So let's give him some, the wrong kind." We discovered Tyler had been photoshopping charity receipts, pretending to raise funds for a homeless shelter he'd never actually donated to. His followers called him the kind influencer. But Grandpa found the shelter director's contact online, and within a day, she confirmed Tyler hadn't given a dime. So Grandpa made a deal with karma itself. He created a fake Reddit post on r/Justice Served titled, "Local influencer steals from charity while pretending to help homeless kids. Here's proof." Within hours it hit trending. By evening the screenshots were all over Twitter. Sponsors dropped him. Local news called it the influencer scandal of the year. Tyler posted a shaky apology video the next morning. Crocodile tears, shaking voice. But it only made things worse. His subscribers turned on him, and by nightfall, his channel was gone. I couldn't believe how fast Grandpa dismantled him. It wasn't hacking. It wasn't threats. It was simply revealing truths that were already there. "Justice doesn't need bullets," Grandpa said. "It needs a spotlight." Ben was different. He wasn't rich or famous. He was just weak. The one who filmed it all but never stopped it. When Grandpa asked me if I wanted him punished, I hesitated. "He didn't start it, Grandpa. But he watched it happen." Frank looked at me for a long moment. Sometimes silence is the cruelest betrayal. Ben was working part-time at a security firm, barely scraping by. He lived with guilt. I could see it in his tired eyes whenever I passed him on campus. But Grandpa didn't destroy him. He chose something different. He sent Ben a single email. No threats, no evidence, just a video clip. It was the moment from their prank video where Ben hesitated before laughing. And under it, one sentence. "You still have time to be a better man." 2 days later, Ben showed up at my door. Tears in his eyes. He apologized on camera with witnesses, and publicly took responsibility for filming the prank. He revealed everything, the planning, the lies, the manipulation. He even named Jake and Tyler as the ringleaders. That video changed everything. Comments poured in. People began to see me differently. The truth was out, without a single punch thrown. When it was all over, I found Grandpa outside, sitting in his old lawn chair, watching the sunset like nothing had happened. "You never even left the house," I said softly. "You took down 3 people from your recliner." He chuckled, that deep, gravelly laugh I loved. "Emily, you don't need a gun to aim true. Sometimes justice is just knowing where to look." I hugged him, tears streaming down my cheeks. "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank truth. It's the best weapon you'll ever have." Just when I thought it was over, Grandpa handed me one more envelope. Inside was a photo of Mr. Patterson, our school principal. "He knew," Grandpa said quietly. "He saw the video before it went viral. He did nothing." My jaw dropped. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to let the truth do what it does best." He submitted a detailed report to the school board, complete with emails and proof of neglect. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. Within weeks, the principal was removed, and new guidelines were established for handling online bullying. That was Grandpa's final strike, Not destruction but reform. Months later, as peace finally returned, I asked Grandpa why he never gloated, never celebrated. He smiled faintly. Because victory isn't about watching someone fall, Emily. It's about making sure they never hurt anyone again. And that was it. Operation Golden Justice. Complete. 3 betrayals undone. 1 legacy of honor restored. But deep down, I knew Grandpa had done more than give me justice. He'd given me my life back. And for the first time in months I slept. Dreamless, peaceful, free. But karma wasn't finished yet. Because the world doesn't like secrets. And soon, someone discovered Grandpa's quiet war. Someone who wanted him to pay. I thought it was over. Jake was out of the company. Tyler was humiliated online. Ben had come clean and rebuilt himself through guilt and apology. Grandpa and I had dinner that night with a sense of quiet satisfaction, as if we'd just finished a difficult but necessary chapter. "You see, Em," Grandpa said, carving into his steak with surgical precision, "life balances itself. Always does. You don't rush karma. You just nudge it in the right direction." Smiled. I believed him. But karma, it turned out, doesn't stop when you do. Keeps rolling like a domino. 2 weeks later, a letter came in the mail addressed to Franklin M. Hayes, my grandpa, from a law firm in Chicago. He opened it slowly, his brow furrowing as he read. Then he passed it to me. It said, "Mr. Hayes, we have reason to believe the recent online scandals involving Mr. Jacob Renner and Mr. Tyler Crane are connected to a coordinated campaign originating from your IP address. Please be advised that civil action for defamation and harassment is being considered." My heart stopped. "They're suing you." He chuckled. "They think they are. Grandpa, this isn't funny. What if they find out?" "Relax," he said calmly. "They don't have proof of anything illegal. Everything we revealed was true. And truth, Emily, is bulletproof." Still, I could see a flicker of concern in his eyes. The kind of concern a soldier feels when a new threat appears on the horizon. That's when she showed up. A week later, a woman in her 30s knocked on our door, press badge clipped to her blazer. Her name was Samantha Ruiz, an investigative journalist for the Chronicle Review. "Mr. Hayes," she said, polite but firm, "I'm doing a story on the recent social media scandals involving 2 local residents, Jake Renner and Tyler Crane. I've traced several online posts to this neighborhood." Grandpa didn't blink. "You're welcome to check my internet history, ma'am. Only thing you'll find are old war documentaries and gardening videos." He smirked. "You're sharper than they said." My stomach dropped. "They said." "Who's they?" he asked. "Let's just say not everyone was happy with how the truth came out," Samantha replied. "And they think you had help." I glanced at Grandpa. He was expressionless. But I knew that look. The look he wore before a sniper shot, cold focus. After she left, I asked quietly, "Are we in trouble?" "No," he said. "But the story's not over. Someone wants to rewrite it." 2 days later, Tyler's online fanbase started spreading rumors that I had framed them. They dug up old photos of me, twisted my captions, even edited fake screenshots implying I'd blackmailed them. My inbox exploded with hate messages. People I'd never met called me a monster. Sponsors and classmates turned away. The same crowd that once pitied me now wanted my head. When I showed Grandpa, his jaw tightened. "They're not seeking justice, Emily. They're trying to erase guilt. That's desperation. And desperation makes mistakes." That night, Grandpa turned his den into a digital battlefield. He didn't need to hack, he outthought them. He traced the source of the smear posts to a single account registered under a dummy company, connected to Jake's father's legal assistant. "They went corporate," he muttered. "Rookie mistake." By morning, Grandpa had compiled a detailed dossier. Timestamps, metadata, and IP logs, all proving the defamation campaign came from their side. He sent it to Samantha, the journalist, with one note. "If you're chasing the truth, follow this trail instead." 3 days later, The headline exploded across national feeds. Local business heir implicated in online harassment and cover-up scandal. New evidence emerges. The story went viral. Jake's father's company stock plummeted 18% in one day. Tyler's brand sponsors cut ties permanently. The internet, once their playground, had turned into their execution ground. But in that same article, buried halfway down, was one line that froze me. Sources suggest an anonymous former military strategist may have orchestrated the counter-investigation that exposed the cover-up. I turned to Grandpa. "They're talking about you." He gave a wry smile. "Good. Maybe it'll keep the real devils busy." But that night as I went to bed, I heard him in the kitchen on the phone, speaking in the low, commanding tone I'd never heard before. "Yes, I know what this means. No, I'm not coming back in. That life's over. This was personal. You tell them to leave it alone." Who was he talking to? The next day I couldn't hold it in. "Grandpa, who were you talking to?" He sighed, staring out the window. "Old contacts. People who owe me favors. And who don't like their names showing up in public articles." "What do you mean?" He turned, eyes haunted but calm. "Let's just say, when you've spent a career making problems disappear quietly, some people don't want you reminding the world you exist." That's when I realized. Grandpa's sniper title wasn't just a military position. He'd worked in covert operations, the kind of missions that never made the news. And now those same shadows were watching again. Just when things started to settle again, we got another unexpected visitor. Tyler's mother, Mrs. Crane. She arrived trembling, holding a stack of papers. "Mr. Hayes, I came to thank you." We were stunned. "My son," he lied. "He hurt people. But the truth you exposed saved him before he did worse. He's in counseling now." She set down an envelope on the table. A check for $50,000. "It's not payment," she said softly. "It's apology. From a mother who finally sees her son clearly." Grandpa looked at the envelope, then slid it back to her. "Keep your money, Mrs. Crane. Just make sure he learns to live honestly." She began to cry, not out of guilt but relief. That was the moment I realized the depth of Grandpa's revenge. It wasn't destruction. It was transformation. But karma wasn't done collecting yet. The school board reopened the investigation into Principal Patterson's inaction. And this time, with national pressure from the Chronicle article, the district superintendent got involved. Patterson was terminated. The school issued an official apology, and new anti-harassment training was made mandatory. Reporters praised Grandpa as a mystery justice whistleblower. Reddit threads lit up calling him the silent sniper of karma. But for every person cheering us on, another was hunting for us. The defamation lawsuit was quietly withdrawn, but an unknown user began sending threatening emails to me. Each one said the same thing. "Truth costs more than you think." Grandpa wasn't fazed, until one night we came home and found our living room window. Police wrote it off as a stray pellet. Grandpa didn't. That night, he pulled an old steel case from the attic. Military markings faded with time. Inside, neatly packed, a surveillance drone, a tactical flashlight, and a memory drive. "Grandpa, what is that?" "Insurance," he said simply. "We're not going on offense. We're just making sure the next bullet never finds us." For days he watched, observed, recorded. And sure enough, he found what the police didn't. A parked black sedan 2 blocks away, always idling at the same hours. License plate registered to a shell company linked to, you guessed it, Renner Industries. "They're scared," Grandpa said. "They're trying to intimidate us." But they forgot something. Fear's a poor weapon against people with nothing left to lose. He sent all his footage and documentation to Samantha, the journalist, who promised to publish a follow-up exposé if anything happened to us. The next day, the sedan disappeared. Weeks passed. The noise died down. Grandpa and I went back to quiet mornings and coffee. But something about him had changed. He wasn't humming anymore. One evening, I found him sitting on the porch, staring into the horizon. "You okay, Grandpa?" He nodded slowly. "I did my duty, Emily. But sometimes when you walk the line between justice and vengeance, it's easy to lose sight of which side you're still on." I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged him. And for the first time he hugged me back like he needed it. Months later, life began to heal. Jake's father sold his company and moved away. Tyler started volunteering for real. Quietly, genuinely. Ben went back to school and spoke publicly about cyberbullying prevention. The people who destroyed me were rebuilding themselves, brick by honest brick. And maybe that was Grandpa's greatest revenge of all. He'd forced them to face who they really were. I uploaded a short Reddit post titled, "My Grandpa Taught Me Karma Better Than Any Textbook Ever Could." It blew up overnight. Thousands of comments. People called it the most satisfying story of justice in years. One of the top comments read, "Tell your grandpa he's a legend. The world needs more snipers like him." Smiled. I didn't tell Grandpa. He didn't need the validation. He already knew who he was. Then one morning a small envelope arrived. Inside was a single photo of Grandpa in his 30s, standing with a group of soldiers in desert uniforms. On the back, handwritten in black ink, "You did good work, Frank. But some debts never expire." No signature. Just a symbol, a falcon clutching a dagger, an emblem I didn't recognize. Grandpa froze when he saw it. Then, quietly, he folded the photo and burned it in the sink. "Emily," he said softly, "some stories end when you stop telling them. Ours isn't one of them." In the finale, secrets from Frank's military past resurface, testing his morals one last time. Emily must decide. Expose her grandfather's shadowy past or protect the man who gave her back her life. A dramatic, emotional ending where karma comes full circle. If you told me a year ago that my quiet, silver-haired grandpa, the man who still carried Werther's originals in his coat pocket, would become an online legend for revenge and justice, I would have laughed. But then again, nothing about Grandpa Frank's life had been normal. And the day that envelope arrived, the one with his old military photo and the falcon emblem, I realized his story wasn't finished. It was just changing chapters. A week after the mysterious photo, a black SUV parked outside our house. Not the kind that belonged to nosy neighbors or delivery drivers. Government plates. Tinted windows. Grandpa saw it first. He didn't panic. He just sighed, straightened his collar, and said quietly, "Guess I can't hide forever." Two men stepped out. One in a suit, one in a gray field jacket. They introduced themselves politely. Special Agent Cooper and Colonel Reeves, retired, both representing something called the Veterans Oversight Committee. "Mr. Hayes," Cooper began, "we're following up on a recent national story involving social media scandals. Certain digital tactics used in those events resemble classified strategies from the Sentinel program. Operations once under your command." My pulse froze. "Command?" I whispered. "Grandpa, what?" He raised a hand, calm as ever. "Gentlemen, whatever you think I did, it was a lifetime ago." Reeves leaned forward. "Maybe. But your name's back in the system. And people are asking questions." The agents handed him a file, nodded respectfully, and left. I stared at the closed door. "What's going on, Grandpa? Who were you really?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled sadly. "A man who believed he could save people by staying invisible. Until I learned sometimes to protect one you have to be seen." That night, Grandpa called me into the living room. He set down his old pocket watch, the one that never left his side, and said, "It's time you knew the whole story." He told me everything. How years ago he worked as a covert sniper, but not just for war zones. He'd been part of a secret psychological unit that specialized in information warfare, exposing dictators, corrupt contractors, and traitors by uncovering their lies. No weapons, just intelligence. But when his last mission went wrong, civilians got hurt. He left disgusted. Swore he'd never use those skills again. Tell me. When you were hurt, Emily. When I saw what they did to you. All I saw was that same pattern. Abusers hiding behind power. Cruelty dressed as jokes. And I thought maybe this time I could make it right. His voice cracked slightly. The first time I'd ever heard emotion break through his soldier calm. I put my hand on his. You did make it right. He nodded slowly. Maybe. But it came with a price. The next morning, a letter from the Oversight Committee arrived. It stated that while Grandpa's actions had not violated any active laws, his involvement in a public operation utilizing classified tradecraft was under review. He could face fines or the loss of his veteran benefits. He read it quietly, then folded it neatly. You're not fighting it. Yes. Fighting means I regret it, he said. I don't. But I couldn't stand by and watch him take the fall for doing the right thing. So I did something Grandpa would never do. I went public. I contacted Samantha Ruiz, the same reporter who had first broken the story. When she heard about the committee's notice, she said, Emily, people love what your grandfather did. If you tell his side, I promise the world will listen. So I agreed to an interview. They filmed it in our living room. Just me, sitting by the window, sunlight spilling across the table where Grandpa's pocket watch ticked softly in the background. I told everything. How 3 friends betrayed me, how my grandfather refused to let cruelty go unanswered, and how he used wisdom, not violence, to make things right. But I didn't just tell a revenge story. Told our story. He taught me that real justice isn't about destroying someone. It's about stopping a cycle. About holding people accountable with truth, not hate. The segment aired on Sunday night. Within 24 hours it went viral. 8 million views, hundreds of thousands of shares. The comment sections were flooded with messages. I wish I had a grandpa like Frank. This should be a Netflix movie. Proof that karma never misses. It just takes aim. Public opinion shifted overnight. The committee received thousands of petitions demanding they drop their review. Even Tyler's mother, Mrs. Crane, spoke on camera saying, Mr. Hayes saved my son's soul. The world needs more men like him, not less. By midweek, the committee released a statement. After review, no disciplinary action will be taken against Mr. Franklin Hayes. His actions served the public good and promoted justice. Grandpa didn't celebrate. He just exhaled, deeply, like a man finally setting down a lifetime's worth of ghosts. Looks like truth's still bulletproof, he said quietly. A month later, Grandpa received another envelope, this one handwritten, sealed with a wax falcon. Inside was a single note. Some debts have been repaid. Consider this chapter closed. I asked what it meant, but he only smiled faintly. It means old comrades are watching. And they approved. That night we sat outside under the stars. He looked peaceful for the first time in years. You know, Em, he said, revenge isn't supposed to feel good. Supposed to feel finished. Like a wound closing. And does it? He nodded. It does now. Life moved forward. Jake was rebuilding his father's company. Ethically this time. Tyler ran a genuine charity, posting quietly about real stories, no filters. Ben became a counselor for kids dealing with bullying and mental health. And me. I started studying journalism. Because somewhere along the line I realized, the world didn't need more revenge. It needed more truth-tellers. I also started a small YouTube channel, Sweet Revenge Reddit, where I told true stories of justice, karma, and redemption. Every time I uploaded, I could hear Grandpa's voice in my head. Don't tell stories to shame people, Emily. Tell them so no one else has to go through what you did. And that became my purpose. 2 years later, Grandpa passed away quietly in his sleep. I found his pocket watch beside him. Stopped at 11:11. Inside was a folded note. When the world breaks you, fix it quietly. When life betrays you, forgive loudly. And when karma takes too long, give it a gentle push. Underneath, a smaller line written in his careful handwriting. Tell our story, Emily. The world needs to remember that truth always aims true. That night, I uploaded one last video. It wasn't fancy, just me reading Grandpa's note. Within days, it exploded online. Millions watched, cried, and shared it. The top comments said, "Grandpa Frank didn't take revenge. He restored balance." I smiled through my tears. Because that's exactly who he was. And as I looked at the pocket watch on my desk, I swear I could almost hear it ticking again. Not a countdown this time, but a heartbeat. A reminder that some heroes don't wear uniforms anymore. They just teach us how to aim for justice. And never miss.